Now to the business at hand. Member for Kalani. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, allow me to thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this 2016-2017 budget communication as presented by outgoing Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie. But before I do so, Mr. Speaker, allow me to express my profound gratitude to the people of Kalani who have given me the honor to represent their views in this Honorable House of Assembly, and also the Free National Movement, for the confidence placed in me to continue to lead our great FNM party. Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to also thank my loyal staff and my family, especially my wife, Patricia, whose support is beyond price in this difficult period. Above all, Mr. Speaker, I thank the Almighty God for giving me the fortitude to persist in my duty in the face of a firestorm of criticisms from within and without. I do pray, Mr. Speaker, to be able to continue to serve our people as His all righteous will be done in the life of our beloved homeland. Mr. Speaker, I'm somewhat saddened and I regret two people not being able to be present here with me today. That is my mother, Rosalie North, and my sister, Doris Hall. Both whom I love more than anything else in this world, but they both have left me. Mr. Speaker, you see, my sister had helped in bringing me up. My mother did not like politics, and had she been alive, I would not have entered politics. But upon her dying bed, both my son and I, who slept in the bed with her, had gotten her permission to proceed this route. I had received her blessing. But it was essential, Mr. Speaker, for my son to sleep with us that night because I wanted him to remember her as she was, and I never, ever wanted him to forget his grandmother. She never liked politics because she felt that politicians were corrupt, and she would never have it said that her son would go along that road. In fact, Mr. Speaker, her famous quote was that hell was made for politicians. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, I would present one of the most stringent anti-corruption legislation ever seen to ensure that none in this honorable house go to hell. Mr. Speaker, it's with a great deal of humility but extreme pride that as leader of the Free National Movement Party, we offer our congratulations and express our greatest satisfaction in the peaceful way in which the people of the Bahamas went to the polls on referendum day, June the 7th. The people spoke loudly and clearly to the nation, and especially to us in Parliament, when they said, "Do not touch our Constitution." Bahamians, let me assure you that we in the Free National Movement heard you loud and clear, and we unreservedly accept and will faithfully abide by your considered decision. Mr. Speaker, we note with amazement that government members and others are trying to shift the blame for the failure of the yes vote away from themselves. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, some have even said that had I been more vocal and come out and expressed favor for the yes vote, the results would have been different. But, Mr. Speaker, I did not know I had such great influence. But now that I know, I ask all Bahamas to listen. Since I have such great influence, I ask them to listen. The people have sent a clear and unmistakable message that just as they have rejected the referendum proposal in 2016, they will also reject you and your failed policies 2017.
Them.
Mr. Speaker, them,
They.
Mr. Speaker.
Speaking the third
them.
person.
The PLP government did not run a fair, free, and transparent referendum campaign. Free and fair elections are the foundation of any democracy, and ours being no exception. It was wrong, Mr. Speaker, for this government to use the taxpayers' money to fund the yes campaign while denying fund to the no campaign. To ensure that no future government of the Bahamas will be able to discriminate against its citizens in this manner, the FNM government will enact legislation to remove this discriminatory practice for all future referendums. It was right, Mr. Speaker, it was right for me to advise voters to become educated on the 4 bills and to vote their conscience, as widely reported in the media. My advice to vote their conscience demonstrated my utmost respect for the intelligence and ability of our people to best decide for themselves on what they wanted to do. We don't question the people's decision after a general election when they vote, be it PLP or FNM. Why should we question the people's decision now? As leader of the Free National Movement Party, Mr. Speaker, we offer our congratulations and express our great satisfaction in the peaceful way in which the people went to the polls on referendum day and voted their conscience. And Mr. Speaker, at the end of my speech, I'd like to, again, table what I said in Parliament when I asked, on 14th of July 2014, I asked the people to vote their conscience. Unfortunately, the process used in the referendum highlighted a number of irregularities, which resulted in many persons being denied their fundamental right to cast their ballot. These irregularities, if not corrected for future elections, could possibly cast a long, dark shadow in the international community and on our country's ability to hold free, fair, and transparent elections. These irregularities, Mr. Speaker, included, among other things, a lack of clear instructions from the parliamentary officials regarding the presence and or dress of observers while within the polling venue. The parliamentary commissioner agreed in advance to allow agents designated by the 2 major political parties to act as observers. However, observers from the Free National Movement were denied entry into the polling venues because they wore red shirts. Why, Mr. Speaker? Why should a red, green, or yellow, or any other color affect the voting process? And what is the legal basis for such a policy? In many cases, polls were opened and balloting proceeded in the absence of observers. Hard copies of the register of voters were not available on time, and in most cases, not available at all at some polling venues. It is, Mr. Speaker, unimaginable that in this modern society, the administration would hold an election without hard copies of register being available at the polling venue. This is simply unacceptable in this age of technology. In some cases, voters were instructed to write yes or no in answer to questions rather than mark the X next to their choice. Mr. Speaker, in a fully wired country such as ours, with all the modern technology available, including the internet, telephone, fax, WhatsApp, we find it unacceptable that this PLP government can be so incompetent that it would take almost 48 hours to count the votes and make the final results public. We suspect a sinister motive, and we demand an urgent explanation from this government. The government also owes the Bahamian people an explanation as to how the chairman of the PLP could issue a statement of the defeat of the yes vote before the parliamentary commissioner had received all of the results from the various stations and made them public, even before the completion of the vote count. These glaring irregularities, Mr. Speaker, are of great concern to us, especially in light of the upcoming general elections. And we put the government on notice that these irregularities must be fixed. And for our own part, we will demand that international organizations be invited to observe the Bahamas' general election 2017 or before, to ensure the integrity of the voting process. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to the fantasy vote-catching PLP. I now turn to the fantasy vote-catching PLP budget, which fails to tackle the growing national problems, but instead is rife with past unfulfilled promises and laced with new ones, which they have no intent of carrying out. 4 years ago, the people of the Bahamas gave the PLP the mandate to provide peace, prosperity, and good governance for the Bahamas. The end of their mandate is fast approaching. So it is appropriate that we review and analyze their stewardship. A thorough examination, Mr. Speaker, of the budget is crucial in that it gives us, the opposition, the Bahamian people, and the international community the opportunity to examine in detail the financial state of our nation. It also provides us with the opportunity to critically scrutinize the performance of the Christie PLP administration in managing our economy and how our taxes are spent. This is especially relevant as fast approaching elections tend to breed desperation and desperate acts by those in the PLP who are determined at all costs to hold on to power to the detriment of we, the people to whom they serve. Mr. Speaker, the budget is a health check of our economy. As indicated during the mid-year review, The vital signs of the financial health of our Bahamas continues on life support and is in a critical care unit. And I want to say to those, especially the member for Pinewood, who spoke about me saying previously, when we left office, the budget, the financial state of the economy was in a wheelchair. But I want to remind him that yes, it was in a wheelchair. It was mobile and active. But now, it's an intensive care unit on life support. I'm sure the people would prefer a wheelchair. If the Christie-led PLP government continues on this present path of tax, borrow, and reckless spending, the country's economic health would continue to deteriorate to a state from which we may never recover. These last 6 months, Mr. Speaker, from January to June, have shown little or no improvement. Let us look at the facts. The national debt, which stood at approximately $5 billion in 2012, now stands at over $6.5 billion in 2015. And the projected borrowing, budgeted at $385 million, will bring the total amount to $7.3 billion. This means, Mr. Speaker, that during this PLP term in office, this tax, borrow, and spend government, in addition to the billions of taxes which it collected, has borrowed and spent more than $2 billion. And I ask the question, where did the money go? I want to remind every Bahamian, Mr. Speaker, that as you enter this world, upon birth into the Bahamas, you automatically inherit a debt of $20,857. Each and every Bahamian upon birth and who lives in this Bahamas and wherever owes, thanks to the government, $20,857.
Wow.
Look around, Mr. Speaker. Just look around. Where did the money go? Our public infrastructure is in a terrible state of disrepair. Just drive around. And throughout the over-the-hill communities, and you become acutely aware of the deplorable state of disrepair everywhere. Our outdoor toilets are still in common usage in many of our over-the-hill communities. Roadways in New Providence and the Family Islands are riddled with potholes, resulting in expensive maintenance costs for our already overburdened and overtaxed citizens. We, Mr. Speaker, in the Kalani constituency, await the long-promised repair of the West Bay Street corridor between Blake Road and Old Fort Bay. And Mr. Speaker, just traveling home on Friday night, I fell in a pothole in the front of Compass Point and blew out a tire at 12 midnight, Mr. Speaker. I was forced to drive my car home on the rim. I pay, like every citizen, taxes to maintain the roads. And that's what the government do for us. I become outraged, Mr. Speaker, embarrassed and ashamed when I have to drive past or visit government-owned buildings, such as the post office, the Clarence A. Bain building, the Rodney Bain building, and many other government buildings that are in such dilapidated state of disrepair. Many of them, Mr. Speaker, should be condemned. I extend to the long-suffering, hard-working government civil servants who labor in such hazardous and unhealthy environments my commitment to deliver them from their misery on an FNM victory. The pharmacies at the Princess Margaret Hospital and the Rand Memorial Hospital are short of critical medical supplies. But thank God, they have finally been able to open Minnis Hospital in Exuma, while we still await Abaco's opening, both constructed under the FNM. Mr. Speaker, with all the talk about doubling the investment in education, this government has not built one single high school in 2 terms in office. Not one. Not one school in 9 years. Not one, Mr. Speaker. So I ask the question again, where did the money go? Where did the $2 billion borrowed go? Instead of reducing the national debt as promised, this PLP government went on a binge of tax, borrow, and spend. And our national debt continues to rise, as is now in the danger zone, where our debt to GDP ratio is at an all-time historic high, exceeding the 70% danger, climbing to 76%, causing alarming local and international concern. And many of our Caribbean sister countries, Mr. Speaker, have gone down this road and have fallen into the hands of the IMF with disastrous results. Devaluation after devaluation after devaluation. This Christie administration has brought this country to the precipice of fiscal disaster. But pray God, Mr. Speaker, hopefully, we in the FNM, once given the mandate of the people, will have time to prevent it from falling over the fiscal cliff. Mr. Speaker, our growth rate remains anemically low at a projected 0.5% for 2016-2017, and is the lowest of all the countries in this region. We are unable to decrease our unemployment rate unless we grow our economy, and a pitiful growth of 0.5% just would not cut it. The IMF has suggested that in order to cut our high unemployment rate in half and absorb the students coming out of school, we must grow our economy by at least 7.5%. So with a growth rate of 0.5%, Mr. Speaker, our country is fast slipping behind the other sister countries in our region. When the PLP government is kicked out of office in 2017 or before, they will leave a country that will require massive fixing. And God willing, fix it we shall. Mr. Speaker, the PLP government has so recklessly mismanaged our economy that we are now at the brink of financial disaster, as our credit worthiness remains one downgrade away from junk bond status. It will require careful, steady, and expert hands. Careful, steady, and exploit financial hands to arrest this fall and put us back on the path of peace and prosperity. I raise the financial hands. Mr. Speaker, all questions they have, I would be more than happy to answer at the end, but they will not derail me at this particular time. We will not grow our economy if we continue to make it difficult for Bahamians and others to start business and operate profitable businesses. Contrary to the PLP government's claim about spreading the red carpet to attract investors, it is not easy to do business in this country. Mr. Speaker, it's clearly demonstrated that under the PLP government, the ease of doing business has deteriorated. 2013, we were at 96th percentile. 2015, 108. 16, 106. When we look at our ranking in starting business, we have deteriorated again under the PLP from 96 to 118. And when you look at the difficulty of obtaining electricity, 114. Securing credit, 133. Registering property, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about 188 countries. Registering property, we fall at 183. Mr. Speaker, that's a disgrace.
Incredible. With all this technology.
Try to open up a bank account
E-government, they say.
and experience the difficulty.
E-government.
Increased bureaucracy and government red tape are making it more expensive
And you're kind of,
and more difficult for the small entrepreneur to get into and or to survive in business. But Mr. Speaker, we must cut the red tape if we are to be competitive with other jurisdictions.
Members,
Mr. Speaker, when given the mandate to govern, we in the FNM will grow our economy and reduce our national debt. We will grow Bahamian ownership and provide economic opportunity, empowerment, and growth for all our citizens. We will ensure fairness in government, cut red tape, and provide concrete support for Bahamian enterprises. Mr. Speaker, that word fairness touched a pulse with me, because a young lady who from the Baintown constituency, Baintown area, has no recognized name, no family name, attended College of Bahamas, was #1 in her class, applied to medical school, was accepted into medical school. But remember, she had no recognized family name. All the students who were lower than her had received scholarship for medical school. This one student, Mr. Speaker, who from the Baintown roots, but no recognized family name, was denied a scholarship to pursue her education. But allow me to finish. But Mr. Speaker,
members,
Mr. Speaker,
members.
I want to finish.
Well,
Mr. Speaker,
if the member stands on a point of order,
The Speaker, I
the chair
don't
must.
have to yield. I want to finish.
No, if a member stands on a point of order, the